Assalamu alaikum. Good morning. Welcome back to the program. And this is going live out on the broadcast waves of Al Ansar in Durban, Pietermaritzburg. Salam Media's broadcast waves, satellite and internationally, as well as on our website, One Nation FM out in Polokwane. And finally, on our Facebook page, facebook.com, and our YouTube channel. I'm joined online now by political activist and now recently published author Mr. Zunaid Mosam. He hails from the town of Mudi Mulle in the Limpopo province. Some of you may know it as a Nilestrom or Nilestrom. And he's written a book entitled Coolie Bandit. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Zunaid, welcome to the program.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Azhar, Jazakallah, and thank you for having me on your show.
All right,
And
so let's start off.
assalamu alaikum to all your listeners and viewers.
What motivated you to get writing a book entitled Coolie Bandit?
So Azhar, I've always loved writing. Not that anything has been published before. Besides, writing, being a journalist and writing for a newspaper called Al Qalam many years ago. But one of the things that is very important to me is to capture our history. As especially our struggle history, because one of the inspirations is the African proverb that says, "If the lion does not learn to write, the hunter will be glorified." And I think in the past we had a very distorted history. The other thing is that when I write this history of ours, it should be narrative form, so that it becomes more palatable for our youth to begin to understand what our struggle is about, and how did we come to our democracy that we have currently.
All right. So the title of the book is Coolie Bandit. What is the storyline and why this particular title? What is how does it refer to or tie into the anti-apartheid struggle?
Okay, so basically, the book is very anecdotal in its approach. So basically, when I was in prison, I was detained and I spent some time in solitary confinement, and you can understand that spending 23 hours alone in a cell, you have enough time on your hands to to uh, to to think and reminisce about your past. So basically, what I in the book, I speak about my formative years, in Mujimule and the Group Areas Act and its impact on our community, my role as an activist, my detention, the experiences of some of my comrades whilst in detention, and also later on, post 1994, from 1990 onwards, how we became decision makers in our town. Speaking about the negotiating forum. Now, it must have been very easy in the bigger cities, but in the smaller towns, you had to deal with the obstructive, recalcitrant attitude of those that wanted to retain power. So basically, the book, revolves around that. And then and I question, are we on the right trajectory? And is it this what we fought for in the current South Africa?
Mhm. The term, and I want to really focus down onto this. Bandit is a bandit, a criminal, somebody that has broken the
An
law,
outlaw, yeah, yeah.
an outlaw in essence. And Coolie is the derogatory term that has been used in racist South Africa, apartheid South Africa, to describe people of Indian or Asian origin. So, how do the two terms come together in explaining your life experience? What did you do to perhaps earn this name?
No, well, I must be very clear. I did not earn this name. I think it was harshly given to me in prison by the interrogators and those that I had come into contact that were against my struggle. Basically, from the onset, I must apologize that I know it doesn't bode well with many people. It is a derogatory term. There's no doubt about that. However, I use the term because if you read the book, you'll see that the period that we are living in was a very harsh period, very abusive period. I mean, it was always yo. I can't say it on radio, yo effing coolie, this and that. So it basically depicts that period. And then bandit, I know it's a prisoner, but I use the term Afrikaans word being an outlaw. You know, so in the eyes of my the police and the security branch and those that opposed our struggle, I was an outlaw. So I mean that is how I came up with the title for the book.
And a lot of politics or the political narrative of South Africa is centered around the major cities, what took place in Johannesburg, Soweto, the uprising now. Yesterday was the commemoration of 16th of June 1976. Durban, now and again we heard about Cape Town. But a town like Nylstroom, in what was then the northern parts of Transvaal, and predominantly Afrikaner area, farms, hunting area, uh, very small Indian community, so to say, black people living on the outskirts of the local town there. How did politics and resistance politics play itself out under those rural unique circumstances?
No, I must indicate to you it was very difficult. I mean, and you know, the security branch were very harsh. But I came to Mudimulle in 1985. You know, I came home so that I can study. I was studying through UNISA, and that's how I began to engage myself with the Pakhameng Youth Congress. Basically, the Pakhameng Youth Congress at the time were the forerunners of the defiance, making the apartheid government ungovernable, and also, you know, the defiance campaign. So when I came back to Mudimulle, you know, I mean, what they were doing resonated with what I believed in. And I mean, no, that was opposing the government. I mean, remember, it was a very volatile period at the time. The government later imposed the national state of emergency. So it was very difficult. And initially, a lot of our comrades, I mean, they were being detained, you know. I got involved trying to assist them, you know, legally, trying to sort of be a go between the lawyers, you know, represented by Priscilla Jana. You know, there were lawyers like Salim Ahmad, Richard Spoor, Saad Kachalia. You know, some of them that represented us, and you know, some of the, especially the black lawyers, if they would come to us to assist, they could also be arrested under the emergency regulations. So that's how difficult it was in that period. And then, you know, there was a very growing interest in Congress of South African students, you know, in the area. Guys that I've you know, met up with guys like Ephraim Bokhali, the late teenage Munama, who happened to be my neighbor in solitary confinement, Mamba Rikoto. So I used to go around with them, you know, to the various remote areas, you know, to establish the Congress of South African Students, you know, and that's how, you know, I got involved. But I must indicate to you, it was it was very difficult, and particularly for me, you know, being from the Indian community, and the only one involved, you know, politically with the Pakhameng Youth Congress and all, and the Tripartite Alliance, is that I stood out as a sore thumb. So, you know, I had to devise means, you know, to try and get into the township and that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Mm-mm. Now, you also spoke about parts of the book looking at the situation today, what the outcome of 26 years of democracy are. And there's some positive, there's lots to be positive about, obviously, and there's quite a bit to be circumspect and to relook and to be even critical about. But I want to look at, again, race relations and use Modi Mole as an example. Have those race relations changed over time? We heard about COVID-19 and the work that's been done, and people are suffering across the board in your particular town. Do you think there is room for race integration or coming together and seeing people as just human beings?
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think that, you know, I mean, as you indicated, you know, with this COVID-19, I've been quite involved, you know, with some of the programs. And yes, no, there is that chance for the what we would call a rainbow nation, integration of communities and that kind of stuff. However, you know, I think, you know, there's a long way, especially in your smaller towns, for especially the white community, to understand what the struggle is all about. And I'm hoping that this book will give them like sort of an insight into what we went through, because only from understanding of what apartheid was, its impact, you know, can we begin to like sit down and talk, you know, because I know as we speak now, there are lots of people that, I mean, white people that would defend, you know, certain aspects of apartheid. I mean, I don't think anybody wants to lose, their material gains. For instance, there's a lot of things there's a lot of justice that needs to be done. I mean, for instance, the whole question of the land issue in our area, I mean, it still hasn't been dealt with. I've served in an MMC for Planning and Economic Development, and I mean, the land issue still remains, needs to be dealt with. I mean, we've established land reform committees and agri-park committees and that kind of stuff for government. So in 26 years, I think I'd boldly say, especially in certain aspects, government has failed the black communities of our areas. So, I mean, I'm hoping that, with COVID, and COVID is an eye opener, because it showed us, the disparities between the rich and poor, and especially within the black communities. So, I'm hoping that, when government sits back again and begins to relook at the economy of this country, they look at it with the purpose of redress, because there's a lot of redress that has to be done in South Africa as a whole. I mean, if I go east, west, north, south from my town, I mean, a lot of the land is in the hands of the minority white communities. So we need to have land redress as one, economic entrepreneurship, training for our black communities. So I know I speak a lot for the black communities, and my leaning is towards black development of black communities. I mean, I've got a foundation called Black Lives Matter Foundation, and ours is to get, besides redress, is to get our own as black communities to begin to develop ourselves and transform our communities. We cannot look at handouts and expect somebody else to deal with our issues. We need to take it on hand and deal with it ourselves.
Zunaid Mosam, first-time author and writer of Coolie Bandit. Where can we get the book? Where is it available, and how can people reach it?
Okay, first I must indicate that with the COVID-19, it's very difficult to go. I've been in Joburg last week, and people are telling me, look, do me a favor, don't you go out and distribute or whoever asks for it. So what I've done is that I've in Johannesburg, it's available at Manjra's in Emirancia. Sorry, I forgot the name of the street. And then at the Ahmed Katada Foundation in Lenasia. And then, there in Mudimule, well, people can come to me. I've already put my address on Facebook. And in Mokopani, there's Aron Sports. So it will be available at these various places. But post the COVID, we will be looking at book launches at these various big cities, starting with Mudimule, and having the first launch at the police at the prison, where many of us were detained in 1986, and then going to Polokwane, Johannesburg, Cape Town, and Durban. So and there are a lot of individuals that are selling the book, like Ismail Vadi, and in Indonesia, and Yunus Chanda in Roshni. So slowly we will try and get the books out to people. What I'm doing at the moment is, those that want the book, I'm couriering it to them. Unfortunately, they will have to pay the courier charges. But I'm trying to find a central person in the bigger cities, where they can distribute to various people. But if any individual wants it, they can contact me and they can get it from me.
Zunaid Mosam, author of Coolie Bandit. Jazakallah khairan. Thank you so much for sharing that information with us this morning, and well done on your inaugural book.
Jazakallah, and thank you for having me on your show.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaikum salam.